All right, so y'all know we're in the middle of this series. It's not fair, right? All right, so I have for you $100. Here you go. Oh, I'm kidding. You also get Starbucks gift card, so there you go. There you go. That is awesome. Awesome. All right, guys, let's get into it. If you don't know me, my name is Joelan. I'm the 9th grade small group leader. Small group leader. I've been growing up in this student ministry my entire life, so it's just cool being able to serve, being able to be with you guys. You probably see me running around with the camera either on Sunday mornings or Wednesday nights, running production and other stuff like that. Let me log in real quick. All right, so today we're finishing off our series, It's Not Fair, and today I want to answer the question, why do bad things happen to good people? So what do y'all think? Why do bad things happen to good people? So before that, I'm going to tell a little story about something bad happening to me. So 4 years ago, I was a freshman in college. It was my second semester, and I was in this class, English 1102. Is anyone here good at English? Good at writing papers? All right, well, I'm awful. My mom wrote my papers my entire life, so I am terrible. So I'm in the middle of this class, and we have to do all this research, and then we have to write this paper. Has anyone ever heard of Spark Notes? Spark Notes? Anyone? So it's basically you get to cheat. You get to read the Spark Notes without actually reading the book. And then I wrote my paper based off the Spark Notes. Long story short, I get caught for plagiarism. I get a D in the class. I actually got a 10 on the paper. I only got a 10 because I turned it in on time. So I get a D. Long story short, I lose my Hope Scholarship. I didn't get it back till my senior year. I had to work super hard. That day, I met with the teacher. She was like, "You plagiarized." I was bawling my eyes out in the teacher's office. It was awful. Called my mom. It was like the worst thing ever. But my mom was super gracious about it, which was very cool for me. But yeah, so what bad things have happened to you guys? Just think about it. Think about the past, rhetorical question, sorry. Think about the past year. Think about all the things that have happened in this past year. And a lot of the times we'll ask, like, why? Like, God, why did you allow this to happen? God, and we'll get mad at God for certain stuff. It's like, why did grandma have to get diagnosed with cancer? Why did my cousin have to get in that car accident? Why is everyone at school being so mean? Why can't I make this baseball team, you know? It will ask this question, God, why are all these things happening to me? So real quick, we're going to hop into Genesis, and we're going to see creation and Adam and Eve in the fall. So real quick, if y'all want to check out this video.
The book of Genesis. It's the first book of the Bible, and its storyline divides into two main parts. There's chapters 1 through 11, which tell the story of God and the whole world. And then there's chapters 12 through 50, which zoom in and tell the story of God and just one man, Abraham, and then his family. And these two parts are connected by a hinge story at the beginning of chapter 12. And this design, it gives us a clue to how to understand the message of the book as a whole and how it introduces the story of the whole Bible. So the book begins with God taking the disorder and the darkness described in the second sentence of the Bible, and God brings out of it order and beauty and goodness. He makes a world where life can flourish. And God makes these creatures called humans, or Adam in Hebrew. He makes them in his image, which has to do with their role and purpose in God's world. So the humans are made to be reflections of God's character out into the world, and they're appointed as God's representatives to rule his world on his behalf, which in context means to harness all of its potential, to care for it, and make it a place where even more life can flourish. God blesses the humans. It's a key word in this book. And he gives them a garden. It's like a place from which they begin starting to build this new world. Now, the key is that the humans have a choice about how they're going to go about building this world. And that's represented by the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Up till now, God has provided and defined what is good and what is not good. But now God is giving the humans the dignity and the freedom of a choice. Are they going to trust God's definition of good and evil, or are they going to seize autonomy and define good and evil for themselves? And the stakes are really high. To rebel against God is to embrace death, because you're turning away from the giver of life himself. This is represented by the tree of life. And so in chapter 3, a mysterious figure, a snake, enters into the story. The snake's given no introduction other than it's a creature that God made. And it becomes clear that it's a creature in rebellion against God, and it wants to lead the humans into rebellion and their death. The snake tells a different story about the tree and the choice. It says that seizing the knowledge of good and evil are not going to bring death, that it's actually the way to life and becoming like God themselves. Now, the irony of this is tragic, because we know the humans, they're already like God. They were made to reflect God's image. But instead of trusting God, the humans seize autonomy, they take the knowledge of good and evil for themselves, and in an instant, the whole story spirals out of control. The first casualty is human relationships. The man and the woman, they suddenly realize how vulnerable they are. Now, they can't even trust each other. And so they make clothes and they hide their bodies from one another. The second casualty is that intimacy between God and the humans is lost. So they go and run and hide from God, and then when God finds them, they start this game of blame shifting about who rebelled first. Now, right here, the story stops, and there's a series of short poems where God declares to the snake and then to the humans the tragic consequences of their actions. God first tells the snake that despite its apparent victory, it is destined for defeat, to eat dust. God promises that one day a seed or a descendant will come from the woman who's going to deliver a lethal strike to the snake's head, which sounds like great news, but this victory is going to come with a cost, because the snake too will deliver a lethal strike to the descendant's heel as it's being crushed. It's a very mysterious promise of this wounded victor. But in the flow of the story so far, you see this is an act of God's grace. The humans, they've just rebelled, and what does God do? He promises to rescue them. But this doesn't erase the consequences of the humans' decision. So God informs them that now every aspect of their life together, at home and out in the field, it's going to be fraught with grief and pain because of the rebellion, all leading to their death. From here, the story then spirals downward. Chapters 3 through 11, they trace the widening ripple effect of the rebellion and of human relationships fracturing at every level. So there's a story about two brothers, Cain and Abel. Cain's so jealous of his brother that he wants to murder him. And God warns him not to give in to the temptation, but he does anyway. He murders him in the field. So Cain then goes on to build a city where violence and oppression reign. And this is all epitomized in the story of Lamech. He's the first man in the Bible to have more than one wife. He's accumulating them like property. And then he goes on to sing a short song about how he's more violent and vengeful than Cain ever was. After this, we get an odd story about the sons of God, which could refer to evil angelic beings, or it could refer to ancient kings who claimed that they descended from the gods. And like Lamech, they acquire as many wives as they wanted, and they produce the Nephilim, these great warriors of old. Whichever view is right, the point is that humans are building kingdoms that fill God's world with violence and even more corruption. In response, we're told that God is broken with grief. Humanity is ruining his good world, and they're ruining each other. And so out of a passion to protect the goodness of his world, he washes it clean of humanity's evil with a great flood. But he protects one blameless human, Noah, and his family, and he commissions him as a new Adam. He repeats the divine blessing and commissions him to go out into the world. And so our hopes are really high, but then Noah fails too, and also in a garden. He goes and he plants a vineyard, and he gets drunk out of his mind. And then one of his sons, Ham, does something shameful to his father in the tent. And so here we have our new Adam, naked and ashamed, just like the first, and the downward spiral begins again. It all leads to the foundation of the city of Babylon. The people of ancient Mesopotamia, they come together around this new technology they have, the brick. And they can make cities and towers bigger and faster than anybody's ever done before. And they want to build a new kind of tower that will reach up to the gods, and they will make a great name for themselves. It's an image of human rebellion and arrogance. It's the garden rebellion now writ large. And so God humbles their pride and scatters them. Now, this is a diverse group of stories, but you can see they're all exploring the same basic point. God keeps giving humans the chance to do the right thing with his world, and humans keep ruining it. These stories are making a claim that we live in a good world that we have turned bad, that we've all chosen to define good and evil for ourselves, and so we all contribute to this world of broken relationships, leading to conflict and violence and ultimately death. But there's hope. God promised that one day a descendant would come, the wounded victor who will defeat evil at its source. And so despite humanity's evil, God is determined to bless and rescue his world. And so the big question, of course, is what is God going to do? And the next story, The Hinge, offers the answer. But for now, that's what Genesis 1 through 11 is all about.
All right. I know that was a lot, but when we look at Adam and Eve, it's like they had it made. They were in the garden. It was like paradise for them. It was like heaven for them. And what did they do? God gave them the choice. He gives all of us the choice. And they chose evil. They chose to sin. They chose to sin. So God gives us a choice too. And a lot of the time, we choose to sin. Proverbs 14:12 says this: "There is a way that seems right to man, but its end is the way to death." See, a lot of the times it's like, I might think I'm doing the right thing, Joelan might think I'm doing the right thing, but in reality, it doesn't line up with what God wants. It doesn't line up with what he wants to go down. And you saw in the video, it's like, ever since that first sin, it's just like it got worse and worse and worse and worse. It trickled down. And then God flooded the entire earth, and then it got bad again. So we see the evilness, we see the sin that is in the earth. So in reality, we aren't good people. In reality, we are just as sinful as they are. And there are broken people in a broken world. And this leads me to my first point. Broken people do bad things. Broken people do bad things. When you put a bunch of broken people, you put a bunch of sinful people on this earth, 7 billion, 8 billion people, what do you expect to happen? You expect to have world peace? It's like, no, bad people are going to do bad things. Hurt people hurt people. So we shouldn't be surprised when people do bad things. We shouldn't be surprised when people are mean to us or when things don't go our way or when sometimes bad things just seem to happen for no reason, don't they? But it all comes down to our response. When bad things happen, how do you respond? So what are you going to do when bad things happen? One thing that I love to do and what I encourage people to do is to go to God's promises. And a few weeks ago, I was just randomly journaling, and I wrote in the middle of the page, promises of God. And I just started researching and writing a whole bunch of stuff around it. But I'm going to read a few of these to you guys. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. That's 2 Corinthians 9. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope in a future. Jeremiah 29:11. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I've overcome the world. That's John 16:33. See, God promised us, Jesus promised us that we were going to have trouble. He promised us we were going through trials. He promised us bad things were going to happen. But take heart, like he's already overcome the world for us. We have that hope and we have that future. Another thing that I really love and what I encourage is having friends to point you back to Jesus, point you back to the gospel. It's like, if I'm going down a bad path and I'm doing the wrong thing, I need my friends. I need Daniel. I need Caleb. I need Cameron. I need these guys to say, hey, Joel, it's like, you need to come back. It's like when I'm in that darkness, I need someone to pull me back into the light and push me towards the gospel. So it's like, I want y'all to think about y'all's friends right now. It's like, do you have friends that are going to encourage you and to point you to the scripture, to the Bible, to Jesus? Or are they going to encourage you in the wrong way? So what about you guys? We talked about Adam and Eve, how they slipped up. We talked about Cain killing Abel, how he slipped up. We talked about a whole bunch of other people in the Old Testament sinning. But what about you guys? Have y'all ever done anything bad? Are you all good people? Yeah? Have you ever stolen something from your brother or sister? Have you ever lied to your mom or dad? I hear a lot of yeses, a lot of yeses. Have you ever cheated on a test? I have. I'm going to confess right now, back when COVID was happening, online tests, get on that, finding those Quizlets. Quick side note. Hey, guys, I'm telling a funny story. Quick side note, Jessie was doing homework, and she was at home, and she was like trying to get help with this. As a matter of fact, it was geography, Daniel. And I was like, have you looked at Quizlet? And she's like, what? What's Quizlet? I'm like, just search the answers in Quizlet. Like, you'll find it. And she found the entire homework page in Quizlet. So you're welcome to you guys. All right, Romans 3:10-12 says this: none is righteous, no, not one. No one understands, no one seeks for God. All have turned aside. Together they have become worthless. No one does good, not even one. Guys, not even one of us is good. Only God is good. If we skip over in Romans 3:23, it says this: for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Which leads me to my second point. Without Christ, we are all broken people. Without Jesus Christ, we are all broken people. Jeremiah 2:13 says, for my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and they hewed out cisterns for themselves, broken cisterns that cannot hold water. Does anyone know what a cistern is? A well? Okay. Yeah? I just know it's something that holds water. So it's like now we don't need cisterns. We have like water towers and stuff. But basically, he was saying here that, guys, we have living water. We have living water in Jesus, and we chose to make cisterns for ourselves that are broken and cannot hold water. So we get punished for like the things we do. Like if we break the law, if I'm caught speeding down the highway, I get pulled over. What am I going to do? I'm going to get a ticket. If you get caught cheating, what's going to happen? You're going to get a 0 or get expelled or whatever happens nowadays. But guess what, guys? Your brokenness is welcome. Guys, your brokenness is welcome in this church. Church is a place where you can become whole again through Jesus. Jesus makes us whole again. So guys, when bad things happen, I've told all my friends this. We got two choices when bad things happen in our lives. And we can either run to God or we can run away from God. So it all comes down to, I've been on both sides. I've run to God and I've run away from God. And the times where I run away from God, I eventually always run back to God. So I always want to encourage you to run to God because that is where we have our hope. I already read this verse, but John 16:33 says, I said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And that leads me to my third point. The hope of heaven is what we look forward to. Guys, when bad things happen, we just have to be ready for it. We just have to be ready for it. We can't be taken off guard. Guys, and we're only on this earth for a tiny amount of time. We're only on this earth for a mist. It's a vapor. Guys, this on this earth is the closest we are ever going to get to hell for believers, for Christians. Guys, this is such a short time compared to all of eternity. We have all of eternity to look forward to with Jesus. Perfect. No more crying, no more pain, no more sorrow, no more COVID, no more dying, no more cancer. Perfect harmony with Jesus. We just have this short amount of time on earth. So guys, I encourage you to look towards the future. Look towards heaven. We can't put our hope in worldly things. We can't put our hope in popularity or sports or doing well in school. Guys, it's going to fail us eventually. Eventually, you're going to do bad on that test. You're not going to make that sports team. You're not going to get as many Instagram likes as you used to. It happens, I know. I've gotten less and less cool as I've gotten older. Guys, only God can truly satisfy us. Only God can truly satisfy us. Guys, and for those of us who've gone through pain, who've gone through divorced parents, who've gone through a grandma dying, guys, God doesn't waste pain. He doesn't. God, he puts us through that. He allows us to go through that pain so that we can help other people go through that pain. See, what is better for someone who's gone through something already to help someone who's going through it now? Use that as a way to help those around you. Guys, we need people in our life to push us towards the gospel, to push us back to follow Jesus. So our ultimate hope is in Jesus. We can't find hope in anything else on this earth. We can't find it. Guys, so here's the bottom line. I want you to think and reflect on where your hope lies. Does your hope lie on things on this earth? Are you looking for things on this earth to satisfy you? Or are you looking towards heaven? Are you looking towards the future? Where does your hope lie? And I know for some of you guys out here, you might have never put your hope in Jesus. You might have never put your hope towards heaven. And you might be unsure, like I'm talking about how our time on earth is so short and we're looking towards eternity. And some of you might be sitting here thinking like, man, I've never really thought about that. I've never really thought about eternity and what all it consists of. So the bottom line, you can go ahead and put it up. Where does your hope lie? Does it rely on heavenly things or earthly things? All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and pray. God, thank you so much for tonight. Thank you for allowing me the privilege to speak to all these kids. God, I pray for their hearts. God, I pray that you would do a work in them. God, I pray that when bad things happen, God, that we would be encouraged, God, and we would look towards the future. God, in our future, our hope is in heaven, God. It's not of these earthly things, God. So as we sit, God, and as we listen to Emily sing, God, I pray that we would think about where our hope lies, God, and what our hope rests in, God. Does it rest in earthly things or heavenly things? God, thank you so much for being in our presence. Thank you so much for who you are and what you did for us. God, I want to say a prayer for those of you in the room that may not know where their hope lies. God, if you want your hope to lie in Jesus, you can repeat after me. God, I know I'm a sinner. God, I know that I chose against you. God, I know that I deserve hell because I've sinned against you, God. But thank you so much for your son. God, thank you for sending your son to live a perfect and blameless life for me. God, we don't deserve it at all. God, but you're so gracious and merciful, God, towards us. God, I want to put my hope in Jesus tonight. God, I pray all these things in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.